Hello everyone, welcome to the Drip Podcast. Okay, this week is a little bit different. So basically, I was thinking about an episode of the APMA podcast, which is, if you don't know, a podcast that me and Lozzie did for a number of years up till last year. And on that podcast, we interviewed a Satanic priest and a Satanic priestess. And I was like, I'm going to listen to that pod again because, I mean, it's a Satanic priest and a Satanic priestess of the Church of Satan. And it's such a fascinating interview that I just kind of felt there'll be people that listen to Drip that have never heard that interview. And obviously we do paranormal here. We want to be getting more guests on. We have guests in the pipeline, some really cool guests. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to bring that episode to the Drip Podcast today. So that is what you're about to listen to. I hope this is okay. I just really want as many of you guys to hear this interview as possible, because I think it's going to change your perception about someone that would call themselves a Satanist. Because trust me, what you're thinking in your head, I was thinking too. So let's roll it. It's me, it's Lozzie, and it's our good friend Dan, who was a host on APMA. Here we go. I hope you enjoy.
Coming up in this episode.
A priest and a priestess from the Church of Satan.
You know, Satan's always the bad guy, outright possessing you, and it's this supernatural thing. Then you start reading the Satanic Bible and you realize, no, that's not what Satanism is at all.
That mindset of, oh, Satanism, scary and it's evil, and it's not okay. But then you pick up the book and you read it and you're like, this is just common sense.
We have two very, very special guests calling all the way from the United States of America. Here we are today with two representatives, is probably the wrong, but a priest and a priestess from the Church of Satan. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Yes, thank you for inviting us on, reaching out to our high priest and priestess, who then in turn said that they thought we would do well, and so here we are.
Fantastic. Well, the motivation, shall I say, or the intrigue behind getting this podcast episode together is that we recently had a witch on, and just her answers kind of blew our minds, and also, you know, the stereotypes or the tropes that we had that was maybe influenced by Hollywood were kind of smashed completely. And so we thought, well, are there any other areas in this world where perhaps there are misconceptions? And so I thought, well, the Church of Satan is something that I would love to know the truth about. So here we are today. So do we have Aaron and Renee, that's correct, yeah?
Yes. That's
amazing. Correct. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourselves and how and when you found the Church of Satan?
Currently, we reside in Poughkeepsie, New York. We moved here a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago, from Salt Lake City, Utah. Yes, we were Satanists in the Salt Lake Valley. And although not unheard of, you know, it wasn't really something that was accepted, I guess you could say. Anyway, moved here in August of 2020, and now we currently run a witchcraft store, and inside of it, my husband has a private tattoo space.
Nice.
I'm a professional artist. I think that's probably understood real quick when she says I have a tattoo space in there where I also create original works of art. I also do a ritual style tattoo for folks that want to do healing or ritual sigils. But yeah, I think she pretty well covered it, you know, as far as the very short version. And part of the reason we moved here that I want to put out is Poughkeepsie is also known as the Witchcraft District. And so that's why the store is called Witchcraft District Bazaar. And that's what, you know, largely attracted us here, was because it is the Witchcraft District. In fact, the high priest and priestess also reside in this area. And getting into Satanism, the individual that coined the term Witchcraft District was a member in life. He's no longer with us. Was Master Joe Netherworld, and I discovered him online. I saw his artwork. He was working with Paul Booth, who's a world-renowned tattoo artist. And I had to know at that time he was still Warlock Joe Netherworld. And I thought, what is this Warlock all about, and his artwork, and that he's producing a Baphomet. So researching Baphomet, researching Warlock Joe Netherworld, it all led back to the Church of Satan. And so then I said, we need to go pick up this Satanic Bible. And she kind of raises an eyebrow. Okay, so we go to Barnes Noble and pick up the Satanic Bible. I read it, and I said, you've got to read this. And she reads it, and both of us look at each other. Well, how about that? We're Satanists. You know, it finally put a label, if you want to call it a label or moniker, to a lifestyle that we had been leading the whole time.
Fantastic. I actually picked up a copy of the Satanic Bible myself. It's next door. I'm a few pages in. And what was your experience and perhaps your presumptions beforehand reading it compared to when you finished it?
Personally, I think because he did do the research and found out about Joe Netherworld. Some of the things that resonated with us was also, very, very prominent in Joe's life. And so I think that we had just kind of thought, well, maybe this is for us, but of course, before that, you always have that, that mindset of, oh, Satanism, Satan, and, it's scary and it's evil and it's not okay. But then you pick up the book and you read it and you're like, this is just common sense. Like everything makes sense to you.
And I think so much of that is because of media and because of film and because of literature. And Satan's always the bad guy. He's the one that's trying to talk you into doing things you shouldn't, or outright possessing you, and it's this supernatural thing. And then you start reading the Satanic Bible and you realize, no, that's not what Satanism is at all. And like she said, it very much makes sense. It's pragmatic. It's a power philosophy.
So what is the philosophy of Satanism? If you could wrap it up in a...
It's kind of difficult to completely sum it up, but I would say that it is about self-freedom. It's about not hindering yourself. It's about pursuing the best version of yourself to reach your greatest personal potential. If you are an artist like myself, it's about trying to be the very best artist that I can possibly be. It's about pursuing my pleasures. So, for example, one of them is indulgence instead of abstinence. So it's pursuing the carnal side of life and not denying yourself those pleasures. So long as it's between consenting adults, and as long as one of the other tenets, responsibility to the responsible, which you will say is your favorite,
It is.
that you're a responsible adult in your actions. Otherwise, go have fun. Go live the best life that you possibly can, because that's all you have is this life. So use the philosophy as a tool to become the greatest version of yourself, the happiest version of yourself. And I think that's really what, if I sum it up shortly, that's kind of what it is. It's a power philosophy.
That's fascinating. So it's in a sense, without saying anything too, personally, I see myself as an agnostic atheist personally, and so what I was about to say is that strikes me almost as like the antithesis of Christianity, where you have all these rules and everything has to be prim and proper, and fascinating. So it's essentially about freedom.
It is literally the antithesis, because otherwise, if you look at we'll say Christians, the Christian devil, that is a supernatural being that exists within their mythology. It exists in this other realm of hell, and it's fire and the brimstone, which in stories and movies, it's fun. I do like it. It is it's a fun idea, but for us, we feel that in reality, that's not what it is. Satan is he's just an icon. He is allegorical. He is a symbol for, like I said before, of having personal freedoms, of questioning the world around you, and that's what it is. So that is the antithesis. It's not something that's dogmatic. In Christianity, the devil and becoming a Satanist in their eyes is something that's dogmatic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're choosing a side within their mythology.
Yeah.
And that's how they perceive it.
I'm sorry, someone's at the door. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's how they perceive it is something that is, you know, the inverse rather than the literal antithesis.
That's fascinating because obviously being a Satanist, but the perception of a Satanist within Christianity is completely wrong to what a Satanist actually is.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. In fact, that's really why we agree to do things like this, is to help, you know, get the information out there, and hopefully there are Christians and others that do, you know, within the spiritual religions that watch, you know, things like this and learn from them and understand that, you know, we are not what they may think that we are.
Would you say within the Church of Satan, is there a set of like moral values as well? You know, like the church have their old moral values. I assume there's I imagine within the Church of Satan there are some moral values as well that you would go by.
Some.
Yeah, I think that the moral may not might be subjective, but for example, just so I had reference, so I wouldn't be misquoting, even though I do know the material. We know the material, but you know, as I look over and I see the 9 satanic sins, at the top of the list is stupidity.
Okay.
Yeah, the top of the list for satanic sins, the cardinal sin of Satanism. It's too bad that stupidity isn't painful. Ignorance is one thing, but our society thrives increasingly on stupidity. It depends on people going along with whatever they are told. The media promotes a cultivated stupidity as a posture that is not only acceptable, but laudable. Satanists must learn to see through the tricks and cannot afford to be stupid. So I suppose for us that, you know, if you want to call it a moral, that's, you know, that'd be along the top of the list is don't be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, don't go into, you know, another one is herd conformity. Don't subject yourself to herd conformity.
Yeah.
But use your mind to know that you don't have to conform to what everyone else around you is. You know, you can be an individual. You can think for yourself.
Yeah, like that.
That kind of speaks to, I feel, especially the herd conformity. I feel like that would speak very, very deeply to artists and creative minds, because there is that feeling of individuality and originality, isn't there, within the creator space? Because as you were saying that, I was thinking, well, I don't like conforming to the herd. I was thinking, like, maybe I'm a Satanist deep down. Who knows?
I think you are, mate.
Yeah. you may be, and you may find yourself in the page of the Satanic Bible as you continue to read it, as we did.
Absolutely. No, I will be finishing it for sure. So, speaking of the Satanic Bible, I bought a few pieces of literature. There's one that here by Anton Szandor LaVey. That is the Satanic Rituals, which is the companion to the Satanic Bible. Could you talk us through the ritual process? Have you ever done rituals? I know you said about ritualistic tattoos, which sounds fascinating. Could you tell us a bit more about the world of rituals?
Well, we both have been ritualizing for several years. We started with the Satanic Bible because at least a third of the Satanic Bible is what we call greater magic, which is ritual magic. It's going into what we call a psychodrama when we're in there, and you, for those moments, sort of do away with all disbelief and allow yourself to just be in that moment. And you engage in this ritual that is, depending if you want to do, there are three. You can do one that is for compassion. You do one that's for lust, which typically lust is a very solo kind of personal thing. And then you can do one that's destruction. And for us, it's primarily compassion, because that's, in essence, it's sort of asking the universe for those things you desire, to get rid of that which might be hampering you from producing the very best of yourself. You might be a writer and you have some writer's blocks. You'd go into the ritual chamber, and there's a moment you say, what do you ask of Satan? I ask that, I am able to get rid of my writer's block, and I want to have ideas flowing into me. And then, whoever's going to take the role of the priest or priestess will say, and you will. And you will have, great ideas and be flowing. You're going to find inspiration out your front door and within your own living, whatever it is. And then together you hail Satan. But when you hail Satan, essentially you're hailing yourself. Because we consider ourselves gods of our own universe, masters of our own destiny. If it is to be, it is up to me. So once you leave the ritual chamber, you can look at it from, kind of analyze it if you so choose to. And there are many members that do. Others just simply look at it that, no, I engage in a ritual, I put it out into the universe, and now the universe is going to respond, and things are going to be, coming my way. Through greater magic, and then using lesser magic, which essentially is like wooing others. But greater magic, ritual is fantastic. It's effective. It's
a release for me.
Oh yeah, it's always a huge release. I agree. We've been ritualizing and practicing that for quite some time.
So are there quite that sounds like there's almost some parallels between satanic rituals and meditation. Just asking the universe. Putting things out there and hoping that it answers.
I think that you could certainly draw some parallels, but satanic ritual is like any other ritual, it's its own thing. Mm-hmm. Just like a pagan ritual is its own thing. Just really, for that matter, like a Christian ritual is its own thing. Uh-huh. I think one of the things that we will not deny, unlike other religions may, is that we are showmen and show women. We love the opportunity to do the psychodrama, to engage in it, to put on the robes, and to make it very theatrical, and to have the accoutrements that we do, and the sigil, and the drinking from the chalice, which has the elixir of life, and etc. And so when you have all of that, it's very showy. But we don't deny that. Other religions, well, no, it's not about being a showman. Yeah, it is. Watch you in the front of the room during midnight mass. As a Christian priest, it's very, which I got to give it up. If you ever have a chance to go to midnight mass, I was raised Catholic, do it. It is a fantastic show. It really is. It is. So if there's a Catholic out there, I apologize. I'm not trying to be offensive, but it is. I mean, it's quite the,
we make fun of ourselves too, so
but it is, it's quite the presentation that they have, but they would definitely not call it a show. It's something very serious.
Aaron, you were raised Catholic, did you say?
I was raised Catholic. In fact, my parents still are practicing Catholics.
Okay.
They have rosaries around their house, and that's awesome. That's their thing. And, I still support that as far as what makes them happy. But I went to CCD, CYO, and I did confirmation when I was in high school, and then at some point I was kind of said, I kind of did this for you, and
it's not for me.
It's not for me. I'm walking away. I question way too much of it, and I know the priest is getting a little bummed. I'm constantly questioning this stuff. So,
are they still cool with everything you're doing now? Is it all okay? Like family?
We certainly had a moment or two where that came about as a question. Why do you need to be a Satanist? And I thought, well, it's not a matter of a need. It's just what I am. I was born this way, and Satanists do believe that. They believe that you are born a Satanist. Mm-hmm. So that's what I believe. And at some point they were going to accept it, or they were going to make other decisions that just would not be conducive of a positive family relationship. So. We don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Cool. Some people don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Satanism. So,
so what are your thoughts now as a Satanist on God? On God?
We don't subscribe to that.
Well, you are your own God.
Oh, yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
But as far as like a Sky Daddy, no, we don't subscribe to that.
Or
Sky Mom.
Sky Daddy.
No.
I've never had a Sky Daddy. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't believe in any angels or even any type of deity. So for those that are polytheist, we don't recognize any of the gods as actually existing and supernatural. And on the other side of it, there are no demons. There's no devil. There's nothing like that. But again, fun stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
I even love the idea of demigods like Hercules. I think that's such a cool idea that gods could have sex with humans and produce these demigods. I mean, what? That's cool.
Yeah.
Too bad it's not real. I mean, it'd be kind of fun to know you can have sex with gods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
Real peace.
Absolutely. So, no gods, no angels. That to me is really interesting because, like, the Church of Satan is obviously named after Satan, and yet
Yes.
to not believe that Satan is an actual being. I'm really finding it difficult to articulate my question, but like, do you see the confusion there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Satan in Hebrew, means just that. It's the one who is the accuser. It's the one who is, who challenged all things. So in many ways, it's very appropriate to be called the Church of Satan because if you're the one that is challenging spiritual belief systems, then yes, you are the antithesis. So, Satan would be that, even if in an allegorical sense. And also, I'm certain it helps to kind of weed out some of the people that might be a little scared. Well, if you're already, then you're probably not one of us to begin with.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
Scared
the name alone, that might be weeding out some folks right there before they're doing what so many do anyway. And that's pure to the tent flask because they're so curious. They want to see inside. They don't really want to do it. In fact, we see with the witchcraft store that we're in right now, people just want to poke their head in the door and they say, "What is this?" And we say,
They'll do this.
they'll do it in the window because they see the word witchcraft. And they'll say, "So what is this?" And we'll say, "Well, it's witchcraft." But all different types of witchcraft are present here in the store. They'll say, "Wait, you mean like real witchcraft?" We'll say, "Yes, real witchcraft." And they kind of get scared. So I think that by naming it the Church of Satan, you sort of get the same thing. You're going to go ahead and weed those superstitious folks out, on the get-go. So you don't have them kind of lingering around inappropriately anyway. But yeah, that's what it is. It's to really question the spiritual religions and to say, I challenge that. I challenge the existence of these supernatural ideas. I challenge the idea of an afterlife, which for me, I find it highly unlikely, but possibly questionable that maybe there's something that exists. I don't know about a heaven or hell, but something that could exist as sort of as I heard someone put, sort of residue that lingers on after death, that may be a ghost or a spirit, but does it possess the self-aware consciousness as we understand it right now, speaking to one another? Is that what lingers on? I don't know.
I would give you spirit. I'd give you spirit, but I wouldn't go beyond that.
Do you say you believe in spirits?
I think the potential exists.
Yeah.
Show me some evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You'll find the Satanists view the world very much as scientists and as we start as atheists before finding the philosophy.
I was then going to say it sounds very, very similar to atheism.
Yes. Yeah. So
We're atheists.
yes, we are atheists. So we view ourselves as gods of our own world, like I said before. But I think a very scientific approach is just that. Science doesn't completely rule out things. They say, well, it's highly unlikely. However, if you have evidence to the contrary, present it and let's see what we've got, and we'll go from there. If you've got some real evidence, then let's see it. Show me a ghost.
Yeah.
Well, on my channel, I do ghost hunts, and I can assure you, I'm trying my best. I haven't found anything yet, but I am trying. I promise.
He's lucky.
And if I find something, I'll email it to you.
I'd be all about that.
So obviously, you're talking about the Church of Satan and the origin of the name and Satan in Hebrew and things like that. I believe, and if I'm wrong, I apologise, was the church founded by a gentleman called Anton Szandor LaVey? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm not trying to dominate the conversation.
No, go ahead. I'm enjoying myself listening.
Okay. Yes, Anton Szandor LaVey.
Brooklyn than I am. So.
That's
That's a cool name.
It is an incredible name, it has to be said.
He's going to be the founder of something with that name for sure.
Yes, Anton Szandor LaVey. He started in 1966. Leading up to that, he had regular meetings with some of the more remarkable individuals there in San Francisco, including professors, artists. There was even a tattoo artist. People that he had what he called the magic circle, and they would discuss things like vampirism or lycanthropy, which are werewolves. They discussed these occult ideas, and as it continues to evolve, it was posed that I think you have a religion here on your hands, and he writes it down and releases the Satanic Bible. But before the Satanic Bible, it was on April 30th, 1966, which is Walpurgisnacht. He ritualistically shaves his head and declares it the year 1, Anno Satanis, which is the year 1 in the age of Satan.
So quick maths, I can't figure out, what year are we in now? 50, 60 something?
57.
Year 57 of the... Oh, wow.
Yes, it's the year 57.
And so what's his kind of, after founding, because setting up a religion is surely a monumental task and must leave quite a legacy.
Yeah, and I think that's literally why he was bestowed the title of the Doctor, which was a title of respect. And we still refer to him as the Doctor because he was a philosopher, literally. I mean, he was a philosopher in his own time and created a modern philosophy. And yes, what an undertaking that is.
Yeah.
And as you read the Satanic Bible and see the tenets that are put together and to read through the entire philosophy, it is extraordinary because he was an extraordinary man in his own time. And thankfully he did it so that someone else didn't rise up and try to stumble through and codify something that would have been a travesty called Satanism. But instead, we have something that we can be very proud of and hold our heads high, that we are a part of and that we literally use daily in our lives.
Amazing. Because obviously Anton has passed away. Is there someone now in his position, or is that a position that cannot be attained?
No, it was... we exist in a religion of merit, not inherit. Okay. So it's not like on your side of the big pond, as you know well, that you do inherit. So at some point there is a woman that seems almost immortal somehow now, but at some point that will be passed on, and someone else will become king or queen. But in this religion, that's not the case. It is something that is of merit. So you were elevated to that position. And after the Doctor had passed, his lover and mother of his only son, Magistra Templi Rex, as she now is in that position, at that time she was High Priestess, and she became High Priestess Barton. And in that position, she had brought up Peter and Peggy, which I refer to them as Peter and Peggy. They are the High Priest and Priestess. High Priest Peter H. Gilmore and High Priestess Peggy Nadramia. They were brought into High Priest and Priestess position with Blanche, Magistrate Barton, and then Magistrate Barton had stepped down, took the title of Magistrate Templi Rex, which was sort of like a former professor title because she was in the former position of priestess and High Priestess. And so then right now we have Magus Peter H. Gilmore and Maga Peggy Nadramia that oversee the church as the High Priest and High Priestess.
Amazing.
And someday there will be someone else or a couple that are in that position or positions, but we have no idea who that will be. And I can't imagine when that will be, to be honest, because the couple that are currently in that position are quite healthy and active, and while they sometimes, I think, almost lovingly call themselves old, I don't think it's very old at all.
No. No.
How many people belong to the church as a? Do you know roughly like the numbers?
That's a really good question, and one that I don't at all have the answer to.
The high priest and priestess know.
Yeah.
And that's information that they don't put out there, because that becomes a subject of judgment then.
Okay,
because if you say that you had, which we do have huge numbers that are worldwide. I do know that much.
Yeah.
But for example, in the early years, if you said you only had 100 members, people were like, only 100 members. You're going to church at 100 members.
It's like followers, isn't it?
But with a title like the Church of Satan, if you suddenly say, "Well, we have 5 million members,"
of course.
Like, whoa! What are you doing with those 5 million?
Especially if people don't understand.
So numbers are never given out, but what I can say is we have some really fun members that have been a part of the church. For example, Sammy Davis Jr. He was a warlock. Jane Mansfield was a member, and we have other members like King Diamond in the world of metal. He's a member. Has been very open about that. So
is a warlock, is that a position that you can? Because I always the lads know this. I always love like
Dan loves a tier system.
I love a tier system. And if you can progress, I mean, if there's a warlock position, and I'm like, well, I want to get to warlock. Like, what do I have to do?
What's the hierarchy like? How is it set out?
Well, you can, when you send in your paperwork, you can just become a member.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can also fill out active paperwork, which makes you an active member, and then from there it goes member, and then Satanist, and then witch, warlock, priest, priestess, magister, magistra, and then the very top.
The top.
The very top.
The very top. But there are a lot of people that within the church that don't want to make it public. I for one had a brief stint with the post office, and I was sure not to wear a pendant in there. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't feel it was appropriate because it was essentially a government job, you just some people just
they get the wrong impression.
It
makes sense.
There are lots of members that are just that are in high-ranking positions of society, that are in Hollywood, that are in the government, that are in corporations, and we're talking like Fortune 500 companies. So they're in these positions and they can't make it public because it could hinder their position. To put it out there, because of the unfortunate stereotypes that are out there about Satanists, and so they don't put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of times we've had to kind of put ourselves in that position also of not putting it out there, and sometimes being like Linus Van Patten when I have to take on. I don't talk to folks about religion, politics, or the Great Pumpkin. And so, that Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown reference with Linus Van Patten, but it's true. Sometimes you don't want to talk about certain things, and I think the only time I really ever talk about religion is in a circumstance like this. Someone did, what's nice is this store. I mean, we obviously have a section with Satanism along with pagans and the Wiccan and the other stuff that's in here. So when they ask, sure, I love to talk about it. I really do. I would love to inform you, but otherwise, if I'm not being asked, I'm not going to tell you, because that's proselytizing now, and we don't agree with proselytizing. That's something that faith religions do.
Yeah. That's something that I personally dislike about some religious people, where it's just like they're just trying to push their belief systems onto you, And for me personally, it's like that. If there's one way to switch me off, it's to push something onto me, And so the fact that to have the attitude of, if you ask, I will tell, but I'm not going to push this onto you, I think is fantastic. And
well, that actually coincides directly with one of the 11 rules of the earth: don't give advice unless asked. And we try to maintain that also. Don't just throw advice at people.
Yeah.
They often, if they want your advice, they'll ask it. Otherwise, keep your mouth shut. no one cares to hear what your advice is, but otherwise you could say, which, we will do, unsolicited advice if you would like it, because it might be someone you care about that you want to give advice, but
of course,
when you just have random people,
Mostly our children.
especially our children, keep it to yourself. And you're absolutely right. I also don't like it. When we came from the Salt Lake Valley, one of the things that the LDS religion champions are their missionaries. It's a big deal to go on a mission, but now you are literally knocking on doors, and they may start out with, just want to know if maybe you want some help with some yard work or something. It's a way to open the door so that eventually they can say, so at any rate, would you like to talk about Jesus Christ and what he means in our faith, and maybe I can talk you into becoming Mormon? And absolutely not. That's no. If I wanted that, I'll go seek it out.
I like that.
They seem like really good. They still really good rules to live by, and it feels like it's actually rules I've kind of been living by for a long time. So
that's the thing. We found that even with the witchcraft, when we had the lady on last time, and it's like from one word like Satanism, you would assume would be very bad. But actually, when you talk about it and the rules and the way of living, and you just come to understand that it's not actually, it's not what you think initially.
No, and anyone who knows Satanists will also tell you we throw the best parties too.
That's right.
We really do.
Well, that's actually
it's because we love life, because we understand how finite life is, and so we want to live it to the fullest and have the best time possible. And that can also, it absolutely also means that I believe our sex lives are better than many people, because that is also unhampered, because it's about indulgence. So again, like I said at the beginning, when it comes to consenting adults, it could be between you and yourself, it could be between a couple, or it could be with a room full of people if they're all consenting, in Satanism. It's whatever you want to do. Anything really goes, so long as you're responsible, as I said before, and so long as it's consensual with adults. So that's why we're smiling all the time.
Sounds like an amazing way to live. I can't lie.
It's an ever-expanding club for sure.
So I didn't mean to give you advice that you didn't ask for.
Hey, that's fine. It's fine. The misconceptions. Things like, what are the misconceptions? Because obviously, if I was to say what I think a misconception would be, it would be assuming, because I don't know. So, what are the biggest, say, 3 misconceptions that you hear all the time and you roll your eyes because you're like, it's just not like that?
That we worship the devil.
Yes.
That we sacrifice animals.
Yes.
And what would you say would be the third?
That we do unthinkable things to children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of it in the name of Satan. Which is just, that's just not true by any sense. In fact, the reverse of all of that is true.
Yeah.
We don't, we've already discussed, we don't worship Satan, and we've already gone through that, so I won't rehash it, but we do not harm animals in any way. In fact, like witches, in fact, we call ourselves witches. We love animals. They're our familiars. They're our children. And we love them very dearly. And we love all types of animals and all types of life. I mean, life, it's not just our lives are precious. Life across the planet is precious. And aside from something like food or necessity, for example, let's say you're out on a hike in the wilderness and your life is in danger and it's either yours or theirs. Well, that's protection. That's self-preservation. But otherwise, no, you don't harm, you don't kill animals. Instead, understand that they don't have advocates. So as the human species, you have to become the advocates for those cats, for those dogs, for those birds, for all of the other life that's out there. Don't pollute the oceans, because that's going to kill our whale and dolphin friends. These are great things. And then the other one with children, I can't say all Satanists love children, but the Satanists that do love children love them intensely and take them under the wing, and they teach them, and they want them to also understand that life is precious and to pursue the best version of themselves. And then please do, as my child or grandchild, share that with me. I would love to share your life. In fact, our grandchild is about to visit, our eldest grandchild, and we're really excited to share time with her and to share with her all of the things that we've been doing here in the Witchcraft District.
And those that don't like children don't have children.
No,
yeah.
They don't. And that's not to say that they're mean to kids by any stretch. It just means that they don't engage in situations that are going to have children. They're not going to go to some playland. They're not going, they may not go even places like Disneyland because they, there's going to be a lot of kids there, and I don't do kids.
Yeah.
So they avoid situations that are going to make them uncomfortable.
There's plenty of people like that anyway, isn't there? That from all religions.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're not doing anything. And again, it's look at those that are, the ones that are harming animals. If they are doing blood sacrifices, then it's something that, first of all, is quite archaic.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're doing blood sacrifices in the name of God, well, that's going back to spiritual religions. Yeah. And then look what they have done to young men and boys, to young girls, to women in general, and the sorts of horrible acts that have gone on and then covered up by.
Oh yeah, there's loads of fucked up religions. The amount of crimes and atrocities that religions, of course, it's insane. So, it's. But
you don't find that in the Church of Satan.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We champion the exact opposite of that.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? Where would you say that the misconceptions stem from? Is it more like a misunderstanding, or is it maybe something a bit more nefarious, like they don't want the Church of Satan to exist?
Aside from literature and film, a lot of that came from from your Christian evangelists and televangelists during what was known as the Satanic Panic in the 80s. And they're putting this misinformation out there, saying that there were these groups that were almost underground, and that's how you get like Dungeons and Dragons involved. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, that this is going to lead you to Satanism, and you're going to start doing these weird things, and you're going to start killing, kittens and all. Listen to records backwards that have these hidden messages, all this gobbledygook. But in the end, the FBI in this country actually gets involved and finds out that none of that existed. There was no ritual abuse that happened. There were none of these groups that were actually performing these said rituals in the name of a devil. There were, none of that actually happened. And if there is something that happens that someone does in the name of Satan, you'll find it's unbelievably rare.
Mm-hmm.
This sort of thing just doesn't happen. It was all
just one whack job that's on his own doing weird stuff.
Yeah, and what this did during the 80s is it was able to get people like Geraldo Rivera and Donahue and others to get people on the air and to talk about it. But then what happens is representatives, members from our hierarchy, and at that time, people like Peter H. Gilmore, who at that time was still in, I believe, a magistrate position, maybe reverend position, I'm not sure, but he was the high priest yet. He was going on to these talk shows. Other members were going on to these talk shows, and we're doing as we're doing right now. They were shooting down that disinformation and letting people know what the truth is about Satanists and the Church of Satan.
Okay. It just seems like I've gone into this probably much like the other lads, just with a load of kind of misconceptions that have been fed to me through media, and it is actually quite amazing to see how different it really is in practice.
This is why I love these conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's just
it opens your eyes.
It just makes me think. What else is just so? What else has been perceived just so wrong? Because I mean, no offense to you two at all, but the perception I get, or the overwhelming perception of Satanists is, evil and bad, and you two seem like wonderful people that just enjoy life.
Yeah.
Lovely, polite, courteous, nice with your time. I love the whole, essentially being like the protagonist in your own story. Like, it's all about you and what you can achieve, and you have the power to do what you need to do.
And that's to, if I may quote a fictional character, Gordon Gekko, in this particular circumstance, greed is good.
Yeah.
Because when you see next door, or envy is good, because what you see next door, you think, wow, he's got a Harley Davidson. I've always I'm jealous of that. I've always wanted a Harley Davidson. So I'm going to be a little greedy now and figure out how I can make the money so I can have a Harley Davidson just like that. Maybe one's a little bit better. So I want to and that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, that's going out there and getting the things that make you happy in this world.
Yeah.
And it's going out there and betting yourself, and instead of just thinking that God will provide. Or the one that I absolutely despise is when people say that someone very close to you dies, and then they say, but she's in a better place now. And I don't know if I can even say this on the show, but my thought is, fuck you. No, she's not.
Yeah.
Her better place was right here with us, so that we can love her, so we can appreciate her, so we can spend time with her, so we can enjoy that life with her. That's the better place, because now she's worm food. That's not a better place. Life was a better place.
Absolutely.
And I understand that it's it's how they deal with it. So I say thank you very much. I appreciate that. As much as I say thank you and I appreciate when someone says Merry Christmas, I say Merry Christmas back. Because they mean well by it, but you can't help but inside think, I live a little differently. So that's
I think. Do you celebrate Christmas or? Yes. Oh, you're saying? I thought you did.
You can celebrate any holiday. You can celebrate any holiday you want. We had to kind of change it up, and we celebrate more as Yule, which is very much a pagan holiday. But then we've kind of twisted, because we consider ourselves to be extreme Halloween enthusiasts.
Nice. Okay, Halloween, I love Halloween.
Our house literally inside is year-round Halloween, as in Halloween. Cool. But I'm not talking about like the kitschy stuff. I'm talking about we have vintage Halloween items that we've collected for numerous years, and so our tree is black. We have a black Christmas tree.
Nice.
And all the ornaments are Halloween inspired, outside of stuff that maybe was from the kids when they were younger or anything like that goes on there. But and we have a witch hat is the tree topper.
Nice.
We put up
purple and orange lights.
Yeah, purple and orange lights. We have a Krampus. We have Krampus figures that we'll put out.
Oh, amazing.
I love Krampus. Yeah, Krampus is cool, man.
So we make it sort of a little Halloween Christmas, a little darker Christmas, that we make it fun. We make it our own.
Yeah.
And otherwise, we still eat tasty foods. And if you're gonna do cookies, like my mom always said, you gotta do 2 at a time. I mean, it's all like 2 at a time. And, we still give gifts. We still have stocking stuffers. We even. The two of us even like to watch certain holiday movies. I mean, Elf now on every year is hysterical. I love it.
Amazing. This is. I mean, we're talking about Christmas, but it's nowhere near Christmas. But is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I say yes.
Yes,
it
is.
It has to be.
Die Hard is an amazing Christmas movie.
As much as Eyes Wide Shut is also a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
If you pay attention, you see all the holiday lights in the beginning of that film.
Okay.
There you go. It counts. It counts.
Is that the one with Tom Cruise?
That doesn't make it a Christmas
movie. It takes place during the Christmas season. Gremlins is a Christmas movie.
Oh my God. Okay, whatever.
Do you not believe that? I would say that Gremlins is probably my favorite Christmas movie.
Oh, Gremlins is amazing. Gremlins is amazing.
You have the gremlin in the tree,
Yeah. Anyway.
The Mogwai was literally a Christmas gift.
We're talking about Eyes Wide Shut here.
Anyway, we're getting off track.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's going to be quite difficult to pull it back on track from Christmas. But one of the misconceptions, we'll go back to misconceptions, so I do apologise. And I kind of already know the answer to this, but I know a lot of people have asked me to ask this because you say like the devil isn't real, etc. But selling your soul to the devil. Any ideas where that has originated from, or have you known anyone to try it?
I gotta be honest. Now I'm gonna have to look it up because you got me on a question, but I don't know the exact origins of selling your soul to the devil.
Yeah.
I can only take a guess that came from literature somewhere, that someone had written that down as part of a fun story. This idea that you can make a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that I know that there are Bible stories where the devil is coming forth, especially in Old Testament, where he is tempting individuals. There's temptation it's all about. And so I can always, like I said, speculate that that's where some of that came from. But otherwise, I don't know of anyone that has realistically tried to sell their soul in some fashion.
Yeah.
God, it might not be a good thing if I do meet that person, because I would have a difficult time not outright going into full guffaw. Just I'm sorry, you're serious. Sorry, I did not mean to burst out in laughter. You really try. Okay. But I know that they're out. I know that there are those people that are out there. You see them on the internet, and they, in fact, they'll send messages to the Church of Satan. You can write to the administration, and they'll write back in if you have a legitimate question. But otherwise, they get emails all the time from people saying, "I want to sell my soul to the devil," which all of those emails are ignored.
Yeah.
They aren't responded to. They're trashed. And those of us that are on social media, there sometimes will come a message on Facebook, especially if you have a public profile, and they say, "Oh, you're a COS member." They'll send you a message and they want the same thing, and it's the same response.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
You have to ignore that kind of stuff. Once you open up a door, now you're wasting your time. But there are people that I think that feel that that's their only resort, that's all they have, is to try and sell their soul to an invisible supernatural thing that lives in flames.
It's cool that you ignore it, because it could easily be exploited, couldn't it? You could be like, yeah, just send me 0.1 of a Bitcoin. Here's the contract.
And I'll forward your soul on to the devil.
Yeah, we'll send the soul. But it's cool that the ethos is just to ignore it. I like that. I respect that.
I'm sure that there have been people that have done it for kicks. Like, God, what is his name that played Alcide? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
I can't think of the actor's name, but I saw him. He sold his soul for Deathwater, which obviously that was the whole shtick that Deathwater did. Having him sell his soul, sort of thing. So no, I guarantee he did not actually believe he was selling. He got paid some money to do that commercial because it's hilarious and people recognize him as a famous werewolf in True Blood.
Yeah.
So that I was going to ask, but this is I was going to ask your thoughts on the Illuminati and things like that. The thought that there's devil worship within that, but obviously it's not really along the lines of Church of Satan at all, is it?
No. In fact, I don't even know if Illuminati actually exists. Maybe they do. I don't know. That's another one, like on the Simpsons episodes where you see the equivalent of like the Illuminati getting together, and you have like Dracula and Mr. All of these leaders that get together to do these, to form sort of a new world order, and they're the ones that control everything. Like on the X-Files, you had that same group. I think those ideas are fun in fiction, but again, I don't know that there's actually an Illuminati that's controlling everything.
Yeah. Well, actually, just going back to something that I just thought, what you said earlier with Anton, and when he was founding the church and the circles that he was in, you mentioned vampirism and lycanthropy. Lycanthropy.
Lycanthropy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there belief in those things, or was that just the circles that he was around at the time?
I think as far as lycanthropic, ideas that we could maybe compare that to what the berserkers were in the Viking world.
Okay.
That you can put yourself in a particular state of mind, again, through a ritual process, and convince yourself that I am becoming a wild bear warrior, a wild wolf warrior. So if it's wolf, then I think in some sense that, for example, if you watch The Northman,
I haven't seen that yet, Bolt.
This is not really giving much away, but there's a scene where they become the berserkers.
Right.
And they instead of bears, they're wearing the heads of wolves. So instead of having like the bear skin, they have the wolf skin. But if you think about it like that, well, now that is sort of transforming into a wolf. That's a so that is kind of like a world. That's kind of lycanthropic, but real world. It's not actually physically growing hair and fangs and transforming.
Like Teen Wolf.
Like Teen Wolf.
It's more like getting into a beast mentality type thing.
Yeah. So I think that there's there's that. And on the vampire side, I think that you can pursue a form of immortality, but that doesn't mean that you're sanguinarian, which that means one who drinks blood. But rather you could. There's science that's out there. There are those that are pursuing forms of immortality, of massively extending our lifespan. That's not taking cancer out of the equation or other disease. That's not taking horrible accidents or whatever out of the equation. It's just simply saying, as far as biological aging process, hyperextending that. Well, that's sort of, in a way, like vampirism. You're talking about living forever, at least the closest that you can live forever.
Yeah.
But as far as, biting the necks of these beautiful women and men, and, or other parts of their anatomy and drinking their blood and living, again, fun idea.
Yeah.
Fun idea. But, and one of my favorites. But it's just, that's not real.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's more the pursuit of a form of immortality as opposed to the Hollywood trope of.
Yes.
And is that quite a big part?
If that's what you choose to do. Some people don't want that. They want the natural cycle to occur, and they're good with that.
No, that's cool.
Is that a big part of the Church of Satan, or was that just happen? Anton just happened to be around and into some different things that aren't necessarily fundamental to the Church of Satan.
To my understanding, he, like a lot of us, was just interested and fascinated by all sorts of topics that would be occult. And by the literal word occult, as in mysterious or unknown. So he was fascinated by lots of that sort of stuff. And we're fascinated by that sort of stuff.
How could you not be?
Yeah. It really is. It's interesting. And you are.
Yeah.
In lots of ways. That's why you have this show. I looked at you have a long list of this stuff of questioning occult ideas.
100%. We love to question. Is there any major benefits or negatives for being part of the Church of Satan that you can think of offhand? What's the most negative or benefit thing that you can...
If there are any negatives, we would not be a part of it.
No.
Okay. So it's all positive.
Yeah.
I suppose if there are some negatives, that it would be that at times like we discussed earlier, you can't be as open about being a Satanist. Yeah. Because of possible perception that's out there. Having something misconstrued. Yeah.
But, we were kind of in the closet about it for a while. I think when we lived in Salt Lake City till our kids were adults and or close enough to, because we worried about what would happen to them in school, and our youngest was actually bullied because somebody did find out about it, and it kind of spread through the school, so we had to put her in a charter school. But once we were able to be public with it, it was we had a tattoo shop out in Magna, which is on the west end of the Salt Lake Valley, and we were very well known. And we became involved in local politics. I was president of the Magna Town Council. He was president of the Magna Chamber of Commerce. And we gave back to the community. Yeah, of course. And they embraced us, and they accepted us, and they knew what we were.
Oh, they absolutely knew. The medallion that I'm wearing right now, there it is, right there, the sigil of Baphomet, that's the symbol of the Church of Satan, I had a lapel pin that I wore all the time when I was wearing a suit at the chamber meetings. When I'm at the front of the room as the president of the Chamber of Commerce. There it is. It's emblazoned right there on my lapel. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
They knew. And for those who weren't sure, they would ask about it. Hey, do you mind if I ask? But, oh, no, since you asked. And I kind of briefly sum it up. But all right. Anyway, you guys are doing a great job. Love what you did on Main Street or whatever it was. So they, in the end, they kind of thought, yeah, they're Satanists, but would you look what they're producing?
Exactly. Yeah.
And how they're contributing towards so much, positivity around here and improvement, and the events that they're spearheading.
We were fortunate though, because I think that we had kind of proven ourselves in the very beginning when our shop had first opened, and then we kind of started telling people, if they asked. I mean, we didn't walk around screaming, "We're Satanists," but if it was brought up, we would tell them. We never lied about it. But it was nice being accepted, because by the time they knew, they already knew us, and they thought, "Oh, well, you guys are like normal people." Yeah.
It sounds like you want to, the stuff that you're doing, you want to spread joy. It's not about being like dark and mysterious. It's about everyone getting together and like saying, being at one with yourself and being happy and spreading joy, which that's great.
That's where we lived. We wanted our little corner of the world to be happy.
Yes.
So that we could be happy. We wanted everybody to, have a good time, and we wanted to join in. So
And something that was really fun for me, and I know you brought up last night, but there was a pub that was just down a few doors from us. It's called the Filling Station, still there.
Yeah.
And we'd really go in there to, enjoy a steak and have beers or whatever. But there'd be times when they'd hear us toasting each other, and we'd say, you could hear us just kind of low key, because we're not yelling out. We'd, "Oh yeah, hail Satan," and we'd kind of cheer. And then some of the bartender, "Hey, I overheard you guys. Is it cool on the next round if I hail Satan with you guys?" Because they'd understand what that means, and they'd say, "If I could be a part of it." So, "Oh, sure." And so, next thing you have people around you that understood. Say, ask, "Is it cool if I do that with you?" "Of course it is." And
That's
so
cool.
then, this is blah blah blah, and hail Satan. Yeah, hail Satan. You have all these glasses clinking, but it went to that extent where you have others that that we befriended that would want to do it with us, and it was fun.
That's cool.
That's amazing. So, I think we'll end with two things. Now, the first thing I think I know the answer to, because you've already alluded to demons and things like that. But I want to ask, going forward, I want to ask all of our guests this. Have you ever had a paranormal experience? And it's okay to say no?
I can honestly say no.
No?
No.
Aaron?
I can't say that I have had any sort of genuine paranormal experience. I kind of wish I had. And otherwise, if there was any that would have happened in my youth, I think like so many kids that just don't yet know the world. It's the wind outside. It's certain lights that reflect a certain way, shadows that move across the walls. And it's, now as an adult, of course, I can look at it and explain with, when you wake up and you're like half awake, half asleep, that not quite fully lucid state. It's something slightly. But then I'll wake up there and I think, oh, it was the cat. Oh, it was the shadow on the wall. Oh my God, it was just Igor, on the bed. It made weird shadow. So I'm able to explain those things. It's not actually something that's like this strange entity coming to visit. But if there was something paranormal, I think the one that I'd most want to have, if it could be, would be a benevolent alien. So like Star Trek, to have the Vulcans come for, I think that'd be, oh my God, that'd be awesome.
Oh, fantastic.
They're coming. I'm sure.
I think it's only a matter of time before the aliens are here, to be fair. I think it's on the horizon.
I'm kind of a nerd.
There's nothing wrong with being a nerd. Nothing wrong at all. And finally, guys, before we wrap up, obviously we've been talking for the last hour about Satanism. I'm hoping we've changed some minds. But like a final word from you guys, as to how do you want the world to perceive the Church of Satan?
That's a good question.
I stumped you with the last one.
Yeah, you kind of stumped me on that one. I don't know. Like, quit pointing the finger at us, I guess. For all the bad things
We're not scapegoats.
I I guess really, I don't know if I necessarily want them to all perceive it differently. I think that's part of what makes the Church of Satan so unique. Is that like we talked about earlier, that there are those that are still a little superstitious. Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good that there's a bit of the feared religion that still exists out there, because it's it is just that powerful, and it's not for everyone, and I don't think it should be for everyone. Yes, it separates us. That's why we're called the alien elite. I think otherwise, I'm going to do a plug. If you would like more information on the Church of Satan, you can go to www.churchofsatan.com. If you need some of the literature, we carry it here at Witchcraft District Bazaar, and you can go to witchcraftdistrict.com if you're outside the area. And in fact, we do carry a good deal of the Church of Satan canon.
Thank you so much for your time, guys. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And for those of you at home, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you very soon up the Atma. See you later.
Up the Atma.
Bye.